All right, today we're going to take a guided tour of the single most complex and, let's be honest, fascinating machine on the entire planet, your own body. We're going to explore just how this incredible collection of systems stays organized and somehow functions in perfect harmony.
And let's just dive right in with a fact that is, well, it's pretty wild. Over your lifetime, you'll produce enough saliva to fill a swimming pool. Yeah, I know, it's a little bit gross to think about, but it's also a perfect way to show how ridiculously active your body is every single second. You are, quite literally, a bustling little world all on your own.
And that, right there, is our big question for today. How does this incredibly complex world inside you stay so perfectly organized? How does it maintain that delicate, life-sustaining balance all the time? Well, that's exactly what this tour is all about. Let's find out.
So our first stop is to get a handle on the two fundamental ways we study the body. You can think of them as the two essential guidebooks for our tour, anatomy and physiology. One tells us what we're looking at, and the other one tells us how it all actually works.
Let's break this down. Anatomy. That's the what. It's the study of the structure. It's about, identifying all the parts, the heart, the lungs, the bones. But then you have physiology. That's the how. It's the science of function. How does that heart pump blood? How do those lungs get oxygen? They're really two sides of the same coin. You absolutely cannot understand one without the other.
And this brings us to this really beautiful central principle in all of biology. Function always reflects form. Always. Your bones are super hard and rigid for a reason. Their job is to support and protect you. The tiny valves in your heart are shaped like little one-way flaps because their function is to stop blood from flowing backward. It's elegant, it's efficient, and it's a rule that applies to every single part of you.
Okay, so now that we know how we study the body, we're going to need a map. With so many different parts, scientists need a universal language, a standardized blueprint just to describe where everything is. This way, a doctor in Japan can understand exactly what a doctor in Brazil is talking about. No confusion.
And this right here is our universal starting point. It's called the anatomical position. It doesn't matter if the person you're describing is lying down, sitting, or even doing a backflip. In the language of anatomy, every single description starts from this exact reference point. Standing straight, looking forward, palms facing forward. It's the universal north on our body's map.
So now that our map is set, let's learn a few directions. First up, the vertical axis. Superior, which also means cranial, is anything toward the head or above. Inferior or caudal means away from the head or below. So your nose is superior to your chin, and your stomach is inferior to your heart. Simple, right? Next, let's talk front and back. Anterior, also called ventral, refers to the front of the body. Posterior, or dorsal, is the back. So your breastbone is anterior to your spine, but your spine is posterior to your heart. See? It's all about your point of reference. And finally, let's talk about the body's central axis. Just imagine a line running right down the middle of you, from your head to your toes. Anything that's closer to that line is medial, and anything that's farther away from it is lateral. So your heart is medial to your arms, but your arms are lateral to your heart. Now, to really see what's going on inside the body, scientists have to imagine slicing it along these flat surfaces called planes. And hey, there's a handy way to remember the main ones with the acronym SOFT. S is for sagittal, that divides the body into left and right. F is for frontal, which creates front and back sections. T is for transverse, which cuts the body into a top and a bottom half. And the O for oblique, well, that's just any weird cut at an odd angle that isn't one of the other three. Okay, so we've got our map, we've got our language. Now it's time to explore the actual neighborhoods, the internal body cavities where all of your vital organs get to live.
So broadly speaking, you've got two main cavities. The dorsal cavity is towards your back. A good way to remember this is to think of a dolphin's dorsal fin, and its whole job is to protect your central nervous system. Then you've got the much larger ventral cavity at the front, which holds all of your visceral organs, your guts.
Now, these two main neighborhoods, they get broken down into smaller, more specific ones. That dorsal cavity in the back, it has the cranial cavity, which holds the brain, and the vertebral cavity for the spinal cord. And the ventral cavity up front is split into two by the diaphragm. You've got the thoracic cavity up top with the heart and lungs, and the abdominopelvic cavity down below, which holds, well, pretty much everything else.
Now this is really important. These organs aren't just rattling around loose in there. Nope, they're neatly protected and lubricated by these thin sheets of tissue called membranes. You can think of them as the unsung heroes of your internal world, giving protection and making sure everything moves in a nice, friction-free environment.
In that dorsal cavity, the specific membranes that protect your brain and spinal cord are called the meninges, and they are an absolutely critical barrier. To really understand just how critical they are, we have to look at what happens when that barrier fails. And this is where our tour takes a very, very serious turn.
Back in 2014, a young nursing student who was feeling incredibly sick posted these 3 words on Twitter. Just, "I think I'm dying." She had a high fever, felt awful. She just knew something was desperately wrong.
And not long after she sent that tweet, she was admitted to the hospital. She tragically died from bacterial meningitis, which is a severe inflammation of those exact membranes we were just talking about. It's just a powerful and heartbreaking story that shows how a single anatomical feature, these thin protective layers, are literally the barrier between life and death.
And that story, as tragic as it is, leads us perfectly to what is arguably the single most important concept in all of physiology. It's the one rule that governs everything we've talked about. It's called homeostasis. So what is it? Well, homeostasis is basically your body's amazing ability to keep everything on an even keel, to maintain a stable, balanced internal environment. Your body temperature, your blood sugar, your blood pressure, all of these things have to stay within a really narrow, stable range for you to survive, no matter what's going on outside. And I absolutely cannot overstate this. Your entire life depends on it. When you really get down to it, every single cause of death, from a heart attack to dehydration to that tragic case of meningitis, is ultimately because the body has irreversibly failed to maintain homeostasis. It is the absolute foundation of being alive. So the big question is, how does the body actually do it? How does it perform this constant, non-stop, life-sustaining balancing act? Well, the answer lies in this brilliant system of communication known as feedback loops. And there are 2 main types. The real workhorse is negative feedback. Just think of the thermostat in your house. When the temperature gets too high, what happens? The AC kicks on to counteract it and bring it back down. Your body does this all day long. You sweat when you're hot, you shiver when you're cold. That's negative feedback. Now, positive feedback is much, much rarer. Instead of counteracting something, it amplifies it. The classic example is childbirth. Contractions trigger hormones that cause even more intense contractions. It's a cycle of more until the job is done.
And that officially concludes our tour. We've gone all the way from a universal map of the body to the life or death importance of tiny membranes, and we've seen how it's all governed by the silent, constant work of homeostasis. Your body is performing literally trillions of these complex balancing acts every single day without you ever having to think about it. So, take a second. What's the most amazing thing you just discovered about the world inside you?